What makes a good explanation? The statement, "the social world is complicated," may sound like a truism, but it's also an important assumption that sociologists make. As a result, a lot actually hangs on how we understand that complexity. In video number 1, we spoke about ontology and discussed how ontological thinking is simply a process of reflecting on the background assumptions being made about reality. Ontology is a second-order series of reflections on what scientists are presupposing, saying, and implying about the world. It's an attempt to order and make our theories as powerful as we can. This is particularly true when it comes to causation. How we think about causation carries lots of ontological weight, and not surprisingly, the two are related. The link revolves around what critical realists and others called naturalism. Naturalism asserts that the ontology of the social world is similar to the ontology of the natural world, and thus social sciences should model themselves on the models of causation in natural sciences by emphasizing empirical regularities. Social scientists learn naturalism because it's built into the logic of positivism. Positivism approaches causation through the lens of regularities and variables. The goal is to identify, quantify, and isolate relevant variables in order to construct a general law. The aspiration is to arrive at the golden formula: if X conditions are met, then Y will occur. But this is unsatisfying. As Justin Cruikshank notes, if we're able to find a correlation between class and voting habits, we have not explained a causal relationship, but an event which requires further explanation. This would include how we define class, how people perceive or misperceive their interests, what beliefs, discourses, concepts, practices, and non-material factors enter into the equation. Theory is already present and indispensable in how we define our variables. However compelling, if X then Y is a very restricted account of causation and is not generalizable to all situations. The social world is a complex open system that has multiple causes interacting and vying in complicated ways. Many ethnographers use this to their advantage. They utilize that openness to understand how multiple social causes overlap in unexpected and novel ways. Ethnographers aren't alone in recognizing the importance of understanding how the context of the things that they want to study shape their experience. But natural scientists know this too. That's why they work so hard to create isolated environments in order to stimulate the activity of particular mechanisms. The goal is to understand the operation of particular causal powers in order to understand how they might operate as part of an ensemble in a more complicated situation. So for this reason, positivism's vision of causality is a poor model of causation for social science. In contrast to this model of causation, George Steinmetz has suggested that because we're working with multiple mechanisms in open systems, critical realism is all about small n comparisons. Steinmetz contends that comparing across a couple of cases can reveal the interaction of generative mechanisms in different contexts, allowing us to make observations and drawing conclusions without the terms of laws. In this way, mechanisms don't always show up like in the equation if X then Y, but instead are produced in specific and historically contingent social contexts. So in the case of his own work, Steinmetz is interested in the interaction between three broad but distinct types of causes that influence colonialism. So first, we have the pre-colonial ethnographic discourse and representations about the to-be colonized. Second, there is a competition for cultural distinction among elites. And third, we have the imaginary identification of colonial officials with the images of the colonized. Steinmetz highlights the contingent interactions of these different causes at distinct historical and political moments. This requires attending to multiple mechanisms at the same time. To do this, he suggests that we need to tell narratives about specific case histories, to draw out the complexity of the situations, and then to theorize the connections between them. As Steinmetz demonstrates, using richer accounts of causation can help us construct better and more nuanced explanations. When we're thinking about the complicated nature of the social world, if we want to be more successful in understanding and explaining it, we need better metaphors and models of causation that are able to capture the natures of the social world. Discourses, social structures, culture, emotions, all act in different ways to bring about very different kinds of social effects. Why should we expect them to be reducible to the same basic formula? And why should causation be narrowly represented by an if-then statement? Causation is a many-splendid thing, and we need different approaches to get at the way in which those different causes work and operate. The social world is complicated, and we need sufficiently complicated ontologies and sufficiently complicated accounts of causation. In sum, we need to theorize our way to complex causal explanations of the social world.